prayers.
Almighty God, who in thy wisdom and goodness has appointed the office of rulers and parliament for the welfare of society and just government of men, we beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of important trust in this land. Let thy blessing descend upon us here in this house assembled. Grant us that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner to promote thy honor and glory, to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of this country and of those whose interests thou hast committed to our church.
Correction and approval of records of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Thursday, 7 September 2023.
Honorable members, the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Thursday, 7 September 2023 is before us for correction and approval. Can any honorable member please move that the said record of votes and proceedings be considered and approved? Honorable nominated member, 𝒔𝒐𝒊𝒏.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to move the records of votes and proceedings of National Assembly sitting on Thursday, 7th September 2023.
Thank you. Any seconder, honorable members? Honorable member for Joshua.
Thank you. I rise to second the motion.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Thursday, 7th September 2023 be considered and approved. Honorable members, you all have copies of the said record of votes and proceedings. As usual, we go through it page by page, beginning with page 1. Any honorable member who may want to comment or observe may do so now. Page 1. Honorable member for Woodley East.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. When you come to page 1, number 3, our order paper always says laying of papers and reports. So wherever it is, because I saw it in 2 or 3 places.
It's noted. Number 3, honorable members, laying of papers and reports. Any other observations on page 1? Honorable member for Bakau.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. On page 1, on top, where you have the assembly conveyed 55, conveyed at 55 minutes.
Is it page 1? Which one? Use your microphone.
Where you have conveyed, the assembly conveyed 55 minutes after 10 o'clock. In between conveyed and 55, let's put at. 80 at.
The assembly convened 55. Yeah, at 55 minutes. Yes, let me take a look again. Honorable members, is your record of votes and proceedings. Are you taking the correction or we leave it as it is?
If it's okay with members, we can go ahead. We leave it as it is.
A member for Upper Salem?
Yeah, what he said is also correct, but what is there right now is okay. I think let's leave it as is and move on.
Honorable members, if there are no more observations on page 1, we now move to page 2. Honorable members, page 3. We now move to page 4. Honorable member for Upper Salem.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. If you look at the second to last paragraph at the bottom of the page, where it says Honorable Alhaji S. Dabo, are we together? Member for Brikama North seconded the motion to table the report and participated in the debate. The is mission. Yeah.
Noted, honorable member, second to last paragraph. Member for Brikama North seconded the motion to table the report. Any more corrections on page 4? Honorable member for Lower Body.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, page 4, the record of votes and proceedings as corrected were approved, instead of no where the wrote here was approved.
You make reference to specific area, honorable member.
The record of votes and proceedings, page 4, after paragraph 2, paragraph 1, before laying of papers and report.
Yes.
The records of votes and proceedings as corrected were approved.
Yeah. But I think we have only one record of votes. Yeah, it's only one.
Thank you.
We have many.
Okay, thank you.
Honorable Speaker, observation. Page 3.
Who is talking?
Banjul Central.
Pardon?
Banjul Central.
Banjul Central.
Page 3.
You're taking us back.
Yeah. The last paragraph on page 3. The following honorable members were absent without permission. My name was included and I did seek permission.
You took permission from?
From the table office.
How many times have I told you that the table office does not grant permission?
But that's the normal procedure, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, page 5. Honorable member for Nyanija.
It's just the spelling for Nyanija, not Nyaniji, but Nyanija. Page 5, Nyanija.
You, honorable member.
Number 14, Nyanija is spelled wrongly.
Okay, honorable members. On the following honorable members debated on the report. Number 14 is Honorable Amadou Kamara, member for Nyanija, JA. now move to page 6 and the last page, honorable members. All right, honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Thursday, 7th September 2023 be approved with amendments. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Clerk, can we proceed?
Matters of the day, Order 51, by Honorable Suleiman Saho, Member for Central Badibu and Minority Chief Whip.
Honorable members, my office is in receipt of a request made by the Honorable Member for Central Badibu seeking permission under Clause 51(1) and 2 of the Standing Orders to make a statement to the Assembly on the ban of female circumcision in the Gambia. Honorable members, having considered the request of the Honorable Member under the provisions of Standing Orders Clause 51(3) A, B, C, and D, and 51(5), and noting that the request has satisfied the Standing Orders provisions, I now grant the Honorable Member leave to make his statement to the Assembly. Honorable members, however, I wish to draw the attention of the Honorable members to Clause 51(8) of the Standing Orders, that the time allocated for the matters of the day shall not exceed 3 minutes for honorable members who may wish to make statements, and the time allowed for the matters of the day is 30 minutes. Therefore, honorable members, I also urge honorable members to observe Clause 51(9) of the Standing Orders, which states, no member may intervene during a member's statement under these Standing Orders, and there shall be no questions and no votes shall be taken at the conclusion of the statement or statements. Honorable members, I now call on the Honorable Member for Central Badibu to make his statement to the Assembly. Honorable Member.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, honorable members of the National Assembly, the issue of female circumcision or female genital mutilation is a call for concern. The practice has both cultural and religious dimension and has been practiced since time immemorial, handing down from one generation to another generation. Decades ago, there were activists who launched campaigns against the practice with the support of non-governmental organizations. The advocacy continues to highlight the negative outcomes, but the proponents and those practicing FGM also advance certain advantages until the pronouncement was followed by an act of FGM or female circumcision. Honorable Speaker, the practice exists in secret and no more characterized by cultural display or songs, dance, or traditional dress. The 1997 Constitution clearly spelled out right to practice one's culture and religion. These are enshrined in Chapter 17, subsection 2 and subsection 32. With your permission, I quote, every person in the Gambia, whatever his or her race, color, gender, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth or other status, shall be entitled to the fundamental human rights and freedoms of the individual contained in this chapter, but subject to respect for the rights and freedoms of others and for the public interest. Chapter 32 also spelled out, every person shall be entitled to enjoy, practice, profess, maintain, and promote any culture, language, and tradition. religion or subject to the terms of this constitution and to the constitution that the rights protected by this section do not impinge on the rights and freedoms of others or the national interest, especially unity. Honorable members, with the above citation, we need dialogue on this matter rather than arresting our mothers and sisters to be arraigned before the court. This is creating discord among those who practice it as a culture and religion. To my opinion, it should be a matter of choice rather than ban the act because of fundings being received from the West. If you are with the opinion that it affects the health of women, why not support them with materials to promote hygiene and sanitation? Banning the act infringes others' rights and serves as a recipe for violence in our country. This country has a record of stability, and we all need to put hands on deck to revisit the act that criminalizes female circumcision. I thank you all for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Central Badibu, for your eloquent statement. Honorable members, we have more than required number of people who want to participate. So in order, wherever we meet the 30-minute deadline, we will just break off to go to another business. Now, may I now invite the Honorable Member for 𝒂𝒄𝒏.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you for giving me the floor. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa muslimina wal muslimat. Assalamu alaikum wa zawji wa zawjat. Good morning to all of you. As a Muslim woman, let me say a Muslim woman of the Gambia, I'm ashamed to stand here in this August Assembly of the Gambia to talk about circumcision, to talk about the secret of women, to talk about the Islamophobians, the people who are standing to ban Islamic, the people who are fighting our religion. I am ashamed to come here to talk about this kind of things in this August Assembly. Honorable Speaker, I am speaking with the voice of the people of 𝒂𝒏 and Gambia at large. My people said they don't like the idea of banning female genital mutilation. What they want is that let this practice be neutralized. If any tribe want to practice circumcision, you do it. If you don't want to practice it, leave it, you are free. As the way the Gambia was since before 1965. Honorable Speaker, as the way the man who led the matter of the day alluded, that President Jammeh talked something like that, and he banned this, the practice of female genital mutilation at Kanilai. Honorable Speaker, I will tell you loud and clear that the falling down of President Jammeh is even the coalition achieved that goal because of that female genital mutilation. When the man made that announcement, fooled by the woman, by the name, I respect women of the Gambia, even the cleaners in this parliament. I never and ever want to call them by their name. I always call them sister or mommy. And I hate to call 𝒂𝒄𝒏 by her name, but I must call her name. This woman was the very woman who pushed Jammeh's wife and the Vice President 𝒂𝒄𝒏, Njai said to talk about the banning of female genital mutilation, and they succeeded. When Jammeh pronounced that, the same woman
Okay, Honorable Member for 𝒂𝒏. Honorable, we have only 3 minutes.
Honorable Speaker, a law is meant to help citizens. Any law that is disturbing the citizens, I think we should look at it critically, as the mover stated. It should be choice. Whoever wants to do it, you do it. This is why I always used to say, Honorable Speaker, This law was passed in this very house. You have to be very careful. You have to be very, very careful. This is why I always say, let us not rush. Let us not rush. When this technician comes with their plans, you have to scrutinize it properly. You see, the blame is on us. So let us revisit this. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
I now invite the Honorable Member for Kiang West.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. Honorable Speaker, we are speaking on behalf of our people, our electorates, who elected us to come here. And from a thorough consultation, a deep consultation between us and our electorates, particularly at Kia West constituency, 99.9% of the electorate of that constituency disagree with the banning of the female circumcision. And we argue strongly that our mothers do not mutilate, and I want to stress this again, our mothers circumcise. They do not mutilate. So we want this to be clear as it is on the document. Honorable Speaker, as quoted by the Honorable Member in the matter of the day, that in the said section that he has talked about, freedom of religion and belief and practice of your religion is a fundamental human right. But Honorable Speaker, this has been made in this Parliament in an act by the amending Women's Act in 2015. Section 32A and B has been amended to insert in the Women's Act in 2015. But this is not a constitutional provision. Honorable Speaker, Section 4 of the Republic of the Gambia's Constitution 1997 says, this supremacy of the Constitution, this Constitution is the supreme law of the Gambia, and any other law found to be inconsistent with any provision of this Constitution shall, to the extent of inconsistency, be void. This law is illegal, and supremacy of the Constitution should be observed, and this is inconsistent of the Constitution to say freedom of right and religious practice. So I think this law should be revisited. It is discriminatory, and this Constitution still told us that National Assembly shall not make any law that is discriminatory to either religion, race, or any other form of human section. So please, I believe this must be revisited. This is our religion, and I think the money that they have spent on banning female circumcision and the campaign, if they have spent the same amount sensitizing people to be held conscious, to make sure that they do it wisely, I think they would have achieved what they wanted to. But the purpose of banning it is not on because of the health issues, but they are fighting our religion, and we are strictly against that.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Kiang West. I now invite the Honorable Member for Latrikunda Sabiji.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. And I thank the Honorable Mover of the motion, Honorable Member for Central Body, for bringing this very important issue before the National Assembly. Well, I think other Honorable Members has rightly said so. And we need to repeal the law that incriminate this particular activity. For me, in the full disclosure of facts, my wife is one of the advocates of this female genital mutilation. And I will tell you, I love my wife so much that I cannot imagine. But for this issue, I always disagree with him on this issue. This is simple. Let people practice it. It's their business. If anybody who doesn't want to practice it, but to incriminate it, is very discriminatory, as rightly alluded by Honorable Member for Kia West. So I'm appealing to this National Assembly. The law that incriminates female genital mutilation, it is our responsibility. We put it here. Honorable Speaker and the others who were here 2015, they were the one who pulled this law in the Gambia. So, and now he's the Speaker of the National Assembly. So I want Honorable Speaker to preside over this matter to make sure that this law is repealed from our books. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒏𝒂𝒏𝒆𝒍. Honorable Member, Parliament and government is a continuation. There is no cessation or breakthrough. Honorable members, I now invite the Honorable nominated member, Maimouna Cissé.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would like to, first of all, thank my honorable colleague of Central Badigo, who is the mover of this motion. Honorable Speaker, as my honorable member for Berefet has just alluded, it's a shame to stand in front of men to discuss about our privacy. It's a shame, and ethically, none of us should be tolerating such. We all know what happened in 2014, when 2015, I think, when it became an ignorant law of this country, where the former president said, no, I don't like to use the word. Don't use it. Yes, I don't want to use it. But you know what? This practice has been existing in this country for quite a long. Whoever feel like it's your right and you're religious to do it, perform it. And the law has been in this country, but the practice never get anybody into trouble. Why now? When the law started here, there has been some arrests, but there was no prosecution. Why now the prosecutions? Why now? We want the justice also to come out and tell us why now. The implementation to be started at the regime of this current government. There is a political suicide in this. I am not supporting it. If whoever feel like you wanna practice it, you have well and good, go ahead with it. Whoever doesn't want it, please take a loss here. This is our religion, it's our culture, we all go through it, and we cannot come against our own principles or our own laws. Traditional, every human soul in this world has their own tradition. Even the West, they have their own tradition, which nobody can take away from them. Why us? Honorable Speaker, this is a shame. As Honorable Member for Kiang West has just said, let's allow people to express their franchise. Let's sensitize our people, the harmful side of it, for people to be aware of it. But you cannot impose something which people don't accord with it and they don't want to absorb it. Honorable Speaker, on that note, I would like to join my colleagues. Whoever you feel like you are a honorable member of this parliament, you need to consider. After 2027, you are facing your people again. And you have to tell them what you did in this National Assembly for them to give you another second mandate for you to lead them again. So by making your own way, you have to think twicely. Don't be sentimental on decision making by certain individuals who were making this to at least make for a living. We are not against in the health side of the human being, especially with the women. We want to protect, we want our integrity, but we want it to be discussed in a civilized.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nominated Member. I now invite Right Honorable Nominated Member Fatou-K Jawara.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. I must commend the Honorable Member for Central Badibu, Honorable Saho. I am always in lockerhead with him since the 5th legislature. But Honorable Speaker, to begin my they even wanted to name and shame women. Considering where this thing is in the part of a woman, we feel ashamed. After the dress that we put on, this is our integrity, it's our cover-up. But why do we even allow people to be discussing this in the public domain all the time? We feel ashamed and embarrassed. We are brought up in this world by women. So, Honorable Speaker, as elected representative and nominated members, we drive our authorities from the general public. and this has raised an eyebrow. We all have a culture, and Gambia have a very rich culture. If this thing has a health implication, I call on the Honorable Minister for Health to embark on a sensitization and sensitize the traditional birth attendants and those who are practicing it, locally called the Ngansimbas. I am a typical Mandinka woman born in a Muslim background. So I will never go against anything that matches with my religion, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on the other hand, as earlier alluded by our colleagues, it should be optional. Those who want to do it, let them do it. Those who don't want to do it, they are free to stay. But to discuss this in the public domain is very embarrassing. Let us stop it. I'm calling on any honorable member to come up with a private member bill. We repeal this. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I submit.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nominated Member. I now invite the Honorable Member for 𝒍𝒂𝒏 constituency.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And then thank you very much, Honorable Saho. Honorable Speaker, I think I want to make a correction here. Yes, I'm a Muslim. But is this only practiced by a Muslim? I said no. It is practiced by both religions, based on culture and their beliefs. If we are to advocate for it, how should we do it? The Prophet Muhammad, in the part that we believe in his teaching, made it very clear that cut part of it, not all. Cutting part of that small thing that the Prophet said.
Point of order, Honorable Speaker. Point of order.
May I hear the point of order? Honorable members, Honorable Nominated Member, Keba Lang, I think you standing up to a point of order.
17A.
Pardon?
17A, Honorable Speaker. All members shall enter and leave the chambers with decorum. Decorum does not only apply in the way we comport ourselves, but also in our pronouncements. People who've debated on the topic said it is really sensitive. Let us be careful what we utter. Let's sanitize our words. Thank you.
Unfortunately, Honorable Member, that portion of the standing orders does not hold water for this particular case. Honorable Member, you can continue.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the ruling. For me, I believe in the Prophet, and then I will always quote on his words. Honorable Speaker, if we are to help our people, there is a way we have to. Coming to the male aspect of it, before the way it was done and the way it is done now is different, because it's been modernized. Before you are taken to the bush, tied to a level where you feel pain and feel everything, it was called a knife. It was modernized because the West wanted it to happen. They come here and teach us the way they want it to be. Why can't we do the same for the female child? Let's teach them in the right way. The way it is more hygiene and more professional than banning it. Where are our human activists? Freedom of what? You are free to do what you want. If at all you want to say the girl child is being forced to it, allow it up to the age of 18 and ask the child whether she wants to do it or not. But if you want to put a ban to it, if the child wants to do it and at the end of it, now she can decide on her own to say I want it, and now it has been banned, how will you practice it? Let's look at it in all aspects. You don't deny it because of you want it to be denied. You want it to come as a law. The former president, yes, made the pronouncement. I'm not here to defend him, or I'm not here to quote for him. But go back and then look at the history. Why was he doing it, or why did he do it? He was somebody who was always trying to fight things. This was what our own people were using to seek for asylum. This is what our own people were doing to what? To look for money to come and establish.
Honorable Member, summarize. Your 3 minutes will have gone now. When you were broken up, it started again. So just 130 seconds for you to summarize.
Honorable Speaker, I think it's important. I will support my other colleagues to look at the law properly and then make it in a way that anybody who wants to do it, you are allowed to do it. But let them also teach them in the way that they want it to be, in the way that Islam is telling them to do it, in the way that they feel that it is more hygiene and more helpful than the female child than banning everything in total. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now invite the Honorable Member for Lower Salum.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. And again, Honorable Speaker, I must thank the member for Badibu for championing this matter of the day. Honorable Speaker, I also arrived in the conclusion that I also came with the same subject matter, but unfortunately, the member submitted his argument on the 8th, that was on Friday, that I could not present my argument. Honorable Speaker, it's very easy and clear. You can see, so to say, how many members of parliament that are female representing people, they are all against it. And it's the same average of Gambian people against it, Honorable Speaker. Even in fact, in their submissions, they said 76% of Gambian people are doing it. Now, out of 100%, how many percent do you get? 24. Honorable Speaker, banning this is not the problem. It's a problem, sorry, Honorable Speaker, because our activists are used to Honorable Speaker, you know, I don't want to use language whereby I'll be pointed to, there will be points to order. Because these activists, they have insulted our mothers and our sisters, Honorable Speaker. When during the facilities we are not much, we are nursing bus, we are taking care of our females, deliveries, and other things. But we never had these issues like this. Because now they start pumping monies in their accounts. Now they want to use us to gain their profits. We can't do it, Honorable Speaker. We against it. We allow people to do it because he quoted the constitutional right. You are free to perform anything. And we say we are a democratic state. When the president makes an announcement, it's not only female genital mutilation, even gays. But now people are practicing gay and not lesbians. Do we talk about that? Did we ban that? Where are the hypocrisies, Honorable Speakers? Honorable Speaker, here we're going to repeal this law. Go against us. When your pocket is used to go against our women, we're not going to tolerate that. All those so-called activists, Honorable Speaker. We are Muslims and we have to practice it. Me, if I have a daughter, I'll take it. And in fact, in 2018, I take 10 of them. That are my surrounding neighbors and my sisters and my brothers' kids. And I will take them. There's no...
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now invite the Honorable Member for Brikama South.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. First, I want to seize this opportunity to thank Honorable Sao for coming with this wonderful matter of the day, which we all appreciated. Honorable Speaker, I know people that spoke before me alluded about the legislative basis, but I want us to look at the society in which we came from. We came from a society that have norms, we have tradition, we have culture that are deeply rooted. And we have to be very much aware of something that has been a pull factor to this country. That is the peaceful nature of the Gambia, which is very, very important. So we have to look at issues, more especially when you come to the cultural aspect, which before we are born has been existing. Coming out with this issue of prosecuting some of these women has generated a lot of public outcry. And to an extent that people are very much worried. And this can bring in chaos in this country, and that's why we have to be extra careful. And I'm fervently with the view that we have to come out with a private member bill to repeal this. It's very, very important, without which we believe we can have a problem in future. This is very sensitive and is very rooted in our culture and our society. So we have to look at it. Any of us can come out with a private member bill and see how are we going to repeal this thing. There is one thing we have to understand. Even the laws that we promulgate in this National Assembly or in the Gambia derive from the people. And if right now, if you should take this as a motion to the people in a form of referendum, it's going to be unanimously rejected. People are not happy with this, and we have to look at it. Not everything that exists in West is feasible in the Gambia. We have to look at that. Sometimes these are come with conditionality, and that is why we have to work extra hard to make sure that we sustain ourselves. Because if you depend outside West, they bring a lot of conditions that are not realistic. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Brikama South. And our last speaker is the Honorable Member for Fonyi Kansala.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I thank the mover of the motion for this wonderful, deliberation. So I believe we are all together, Honorable Speaker, and I also made this very clear that proclamation of the President could adhere to a law in which the Parliament has passed as an act. Secondly, he has proclaimed as an Islamic state. Was it done? Let's ask ourselves. He has proclaimed about gay. Was it done? Let's ask her, why is this FGM an issue? And to correct this point, we are people. The people of the Gambia and that of Fonyi has never practiced FGM. It's borrowed from the West, and we will bury it here in this assembly. We are not here to joke, and we represent the people. When you tamper with your Islamic and cultural aspect, we will repel with all forces. So therefore, I tax myself and all members to come with a private member bill, to police this law outright, immediately, to make sure our people are adhered to. That is the only way out. We cannot be surrounded by cheeky dodos in terms of gains of their pockets. Time has elapsed. Honorable Speaker, I had also had a strong activist trying to insinuate the arrest of an imam. I, part and parcel, a student of that imam. I am ready to remove my cap as a parliamentarian, to walk towards the street if any day that imam is arrested. And to clear the matter, you cannot even make proper prayers. Rabbi Sidni Elman. Is this what he said? Rabbi Sidni Elman. This is what the dua is all about. Instead of attacking Imam. We are here, and the forces will stay. We will not compromise with our religion. We will not compromise with our culture, and we will stand foot, tooth, and nail to make sure we defend the defenseless. Honorable Speaker, to quote certain references from this. In 1994, the head of Al Jazeera Islamic University declared circumcision obligatory, specific removal of the area in which we are to do as what we are doing. Secondly, in 2009, the National Council of Islamic Affairs of Malaysia declared female circumcision obligatory for Muslim women and limited to what it's supposed to be based on the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ. And again also, in the Islamic Cultural Center of Ireland states that female circumcision is Islamic and not FGM. So we want to put tests to these activists. Where have you borrowed this word? Since pre-colonial era,
Thank you very much, honorable members. It's unfortunate we have about 20-something members who want to talk on this issue. We are only able to take 10. So let me thank the mover of the motion, the honorable member for Central Badibu, and of course all honorable members who have participated eloquently on this issue. For those who have not had the opportunity to speak, may include it in may express their opinion during the adjournment debate. But of all, it looks like the motion moved by 𝒕𝒉𝒊𝒔 has nobody who spoke contrary to it so far. I want to thank you all, and now invite the clerk for us to proceed.
Laying of papers and reports. Report of the Finance and Public Accounts Committee on the 2019 audited account of government, Auditor General Report, COVID-19, Response Phase 2, Annual Activity Report, and Audited Financial Statement of Public Agencies, Institutions, Areas, and Municipal Councils, by the Honorable Chairperson of the Committee.
Thank you very much, Clerk. May I now invite the Chairperson of the Committee on Finance and Public Accounts Committee to table their report. Whom do you want to observe? Observe the process. You are either going to observe the clerk so far or myself, but not the process. If the process is not in order, you will go by the standing orders and put a point of order. Of the Committee on Finance and Public Accounts, please table your report.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
At any point, you may make an observation, but then you observe people and what they say at any time. Yes, please continue.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable members, can you permit me to lay before you the report of the Parliamentary Scrutiny on the 2019 audited accounts of the Government of the Gambia, Auditor General's report on COVID-19 response phase 2, the annual activity reports and audited financial statements of the public agencies and institutions, city, municipal and area councils from the period June 2022 to July 2023. We have the table of contents and the acronyms in the report. From there, the Honorable Chairperson's statement, the National Assembly Standing Committee on Finance and Public Accounts, FPAC, hereby publish the outcome of the public hearings on parliamentary scrutiny and oversight engagements of FPAC between June 2022 and July 2023 that were convened at the National Assembly of the Gambia, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, officials of Accountant General's Department and National Audit Office, Board and Management of Public Institutions and Agencies, as well as mayors, chairpersons, and management of city, municipal, and area councils were summoned to appear before the FPAC for consideration and adoption of their audited accounts and financial statements. The report covers audited financial statement of central government for the year ended at 1st December 2019, Auditor General's report and government COVID-19 responses phase 2, and annual activity reports and audited financial statement and management letters of public institutions and agencies covering the period 2018 to 2020, respectively. The sole objective of this statutory exercise is to enhance transparency and accountability with a view to ensuring that the government of the Gambia and all public institutions and agencies are accountable to the Gambian people through their elected representatives. the Standing Committee of the National Assembly on Finance and Public Accounts is determined to do whatever it takes to hold the government and its institutions accountable to the citizens by ensuring that the proper public finance management policies are implemented. It is imperative that, as servants of the people, we will all conform in our actions, words, and attitude to the best financial management practices. The aim of FPAC's engagement is therefore not to witch hunt any individual or institution. It is rather meant to ensure transparency, probity, and openness in all public institutions financed with taxpayers' money. It is equally intended to hold heads of public institutions accountable for their actions or omissions, thereby ensuring that they deliver valuable services to the populace in an effective and efficient manner. Signed by the chairperson of the committee, I humble self. Honorable Speaker, acknowledgement FPAC was supported in all its process and engagement by the Auditor General and officials of National Audit Office, Accountant General, Permanent Secretary, and officials of the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, officials of Gambia Public Procurement Authority, as well as subject matter specialists in the persons of Mr. Abdoulaye B. Cham, Dr. Aliu Ofal, and Mr. 𝒒𝒑𝒂𝒏. On behalf of the honorable members of FPAC expresses sincere gratitude and appreciations to all individuals and institutions that contributed in diverse ways towards the successful conduct of FPAC deliberations. The support staff of FPAC, especially the committee secretariat, deserves special mention. In the same vein, I acknowledge the cooperation of Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, boards and managements of all the public institutions scrutinize and urge all of them to fully implement the recommendations contained herein. Honorable Speaker, the background pursuant to Section 109 of the 1997 Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia, the Finance and Public Accounts Committee is mandated to scrutinize the accounts of the government of the Gambia as audited by the Auditor General of the Republic of the Gambia. FPAC relies on Section 109(2)(a) and (b) of the Constitution to execute its function with effectiveness and diligence. Similarly, the committee is mandated by Section 109(3)(a), (b), and (c), as well as Section 110 of the 1997 Constitution to reprimand or admonish any officer, agency, department, or ministry who or which has been found wanting in execution of their mandate. Honorable Speaker, the Bureau of Committee of Sixth Legislature resolved that the scrutiny of all public accounts shall be the sole prerogative of FPAC, except for 13 other commercial SOEs, whose accounts shall be scrutinized by PEG. This report of FPAC covers the audited accounts and financial statement of the government of the Republic of the Gambia for the year ended 1st December 2019, Auditor General's report on the government COVID-19 response, Phase 2, the annual activity reports and audited financial statements of public agencies, departments, autonomous public institutions, area and municipal councils, and tertiary education institutions, and the methodology that was applied. Methodology employed during this session includes a combination of the following evidence through analysis of activity report and financial statements. The committee reviewed and considered the reports of all institutions within its remit and received expert analysis from the subject matter specialists, Auditor General and Director General of Gambia Public Procurement Authority or their representatives. And public hearings, the committee summoned witnesses from all relevant institutions to a public hearing where they make presentation and respond to questions and concerns regarding the annual activity reports and audited financial statements. All FPAC sessions were open to the public and the media. The chapter 1 of the report, the audit of the government COVID-19 response, phase 2. The introduction, COVID was an unprecedented global public health pandemic with severe health and economic consequences. As the situation unfolds and countries respond to the role of supreme audit institutions, became increasingly important in assisting government response process by maintaining public financial management, discipline, and safeguarding the transparency and accountability. Throughout the crisis, the major emphasis of government is on protecting livelihoods and public health. Therefore, auditors are constrained both by the fiscal contact limitations and the need to avoid inhibiting government from response to the pandemic. As a result, key oversight controls may suffer, particularly as public financial management systems are streamlined to be more flexible. The Finance and Public Accounts Committee received a formal presentation of the Phase 2 audit report on the government COVID-19 response with regards to the procurement and distribution of items purchased and relief packages to those working in the tourism industry and the media. Key winners from the Ministries of Finance, Trade, Health, Tourism, Information and Communication Technology, and National Disaster Management Agency, the Gambia Public Procurement Authority, were also invited to provide updates on the compliance of the procurement procedures as required. This report highlights key findings on the audit report and recommendations for the consideration of the plenary. Honorable Speaker, the distribution of food and medical items, payment to frontline workers and quarantine centers, and support to other sectors. The National Disaster Management Agency, the Government of the Gambia through the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment.
Honorable Speaker, observation.
Whom do you want to observe?
Yes, the mover. I thought there is a practice and a good practice I'm seeing here in this.
Honorable Member, you said observation, am I right?
Yes.
He's allowed. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, allow me. I'm seeing a very good practice that is employed by FPAC. That's the Honorable Chairperson's statement. I thought the mover will just read that and allow honorable members to go through the other things without reading verbatim all that is here.
Honorable Member, you are suggesting that he summarizes rather than reading it verbatim. Honorable Member, can you continue?
I think that the Honorable Member is in a haste that after reading the introductory part, when I come to the substance, institution by institutions, that is what I intend to be doing. Okay? The first one that has to do with the National Disaster Management Agency, the agency was invited, and then the scrutiny took place, and in the course of the scrutiny, a total amount of 27 million was paid by the Accountant General's Department as at 1st October in relation to the transportation and distribution processes. In that, the findings and observations that emanated, there were lapses in identification process of households. The names of the places were listed, and also on distributed food items also, we came across certain food items that were not distributed. And then in certain areas, for example, in CRR, we have a total of sugar, 120 bags, 50 kilo, oil, 180 gallons, 20 liters, rice, 4 bags, 50 kilo, and in 50 kilo. Then the storage and security of food items. The auditor also raised concern on the manner in which food items were stored, and that led to the destruction of certain food items.
Honorable Member, can you please help me through? Where are you?
Page 10.
Page 8.
Page 10.
Page 10.
10, yes.
Okay. 10C. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
On the late distribution of food items, at a particular region, it is mentioned that there were late distribution of food items. And then in another region, it is also mentioned that certain food stock balances were not distributed after the excise. On conclusion, based on the evidences obtained by the auditors and the lapses that were identified, the committee concluded that the storage and distribution process did not fully comply with the laws and regulations that govern them. And the recommendation that follows suit. The committee recommends that a proper needs assessment, including relevant criteria, will have ensured that the households are carefully selected and only those considered vulnerable are identified to benefit from the support. There should be standard guidelines for the transportation distribution of the food items. The committee further recommends that the Executive Director of the National Disaster Management Agency must account for all the remaining stock balances within 10 days. Records of all items of inventory, including food items kept, should always be made available and presented for audit. And then, fourthly, timely distribution will ensure that vulnerable households access food items on time. On the other point, there is the allowances that are paid to frontline workers and distribution of the medical items outside Greater Banjul. The table below highlighted the distribution of those for Ministry of Health. The table below outlining the distribution process, and the table is here for your purview. On the findings and observation, funding and payment, Government of the Gambia, through relevant stakeholders, Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Health, prepare supplementary bill environments to finance the health sector in response to the COVID-19 emergency at a tune of 750 million. 100 million of this amount, representing 13%, was budgeted for payment of allowances to frontline workers in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. The streamline of payment, Accountant General's Department made fund transfer to four streams, that's the paying points for onward payment to beneficiaries. The streams are as follows: hospitals, and then the bank transfers, accounts unit, Ministry of Health, and then the sub-treasuries. The category of frontline workers, the ministries certify the categories personnel involved in the fight against COVID-19. The categorization of disseminated to the regional head directors and the heads of the thematic areas for use in classifying the personnel, and then the categorization is table below. Distribution of medical items. The key finding revealed failure to prepare comprehensive master list and also unprecedented payment voucher that amounted to a tune of 1.65 million, and then failure to pay allowances to some personnel in the master list, inaccurate amounts of allowances paid to the frontline workers, and then inventory system and stock cards. The committee concludes that based on the evidence obtained by the auditors, adequate and appropriate evidence was not presented by the Ministry of Health to substantiate the payment of allowance to some frontline workers. These were lapses in the internal control discrepancies noted might not be addressed and funds might be diverted. The lapses in the payment of allowances meant money have been misused. In addition, poor controls around the storage and distribution of medical items increase the risk that items have not been available to treat patients. And recommendations, more payment of allowances should be initiated without comprehensive list of eligible personnel. All payments should be supported with payment voucher, and this should be retained for future audit responses. Payments should not be processed without such a trial in place. The missing payment voucher in respect of the payment of 1.6 million must be produced within 72 hours, failure of which the board controller will reverse the sum. Any personnel identified and included in the attachment list and considered as eligible personnel is entitled to receive the allowance. Payment officers Payment officers should ensure that monies allocated for specific purposes are only used for the intended purpose. The overpayment of 1.6 million must be recovered from the vote controller immediately. Stock cards should be maintained at all health facilities and regular reconciliation conducted between tally cards and fiscal items held. Any differences should be investigated. The procurement and payment to quarantine centers, this total to a tune of 750 million, and out of it 199,719 was spent on procurement and use of quarantine centers and facilities. The table highlighted.
Honorable member, 199,000. Can you read that? It should be
199 million rather. 979,708. Thank you for the question. And the key findings and observations: no evidence of need assessment was discovered by the audit, and that failure to comply with the procurement process and procedures was also highlighted by the Gambia Procurement Authority. And contracts awarded before the GBB approval was granted was also an issue raised by the auditors. Failure to submit quotations, and that was also an issue, a tune of 193,207,843 was also highlighted by the procurement authorities. Conclusion: based on the evidence submitted by the auditor, there are contract weaknesses, and the auditors did not receive sufficient information and documentation for the Ministry of Health to substantiate the procurement and payment to quarantine centers or facilities. The committee could conclude that the Ministry of Health failed to comply with the public procurement laws and regulations, and therefore recommend procurement should not be carried out without proper need assessment, as it is an important activity that ensures that the required quarantine centers or facilities are procured and used, which help avoid wastage of resources. All proposed contracts for procurement shall be submitted to GBBA for its approval, along with the complete contract file. All proposed contracts for procurement, that's a petition. Authorizing officers should ensure that the quotations are requested and provided by at least 3 independent bidders, and the most responsive bidder is selected before payments are authorized and approved. The Ministry of Health must provide FPAC within 7 days all material evidence related to the request for quotations. To relief package for overseas students, the committee realized that the Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology that the Governor of the Gambia, through the Ministry of Finance and Finance and Economic Affairs, allocated 29.1 million as relief package to the Gambian students studying overseas who are not under Gambia government scholarship. On the findings, no eligibility criteria, no document guideline or policies or eligibility criteria exist to guide the management of the support to overseas students. In some countries, students on government scholarship receive support allowance, while students in other countries did not receive the allowance. As such, eligibility and selection criteria were not stipulated at the outset, and the differences between the amount received and the paid to the beneficiary. The auditors noted a difference of 1,380,186.008 between funds received and recorded in embassy's cash book and payment made to the student as shown in the table below. And there the committee concluded that based on the documentation and information obtained by the auditors, adequate and appropriate evidence was not presented by the Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology to substantiate the proper identification of eligible students and the subsequent payment of allowances. The purpose of relief package is not achieved, hence there was no clear eligibility criteria used. And the committee recommends that payment of allowance to support students during the pandemic should not be carried out without clear eligibility criteria, and that embassies should ensure that unused balance of funds received should be returned to Accountant General's Department immediately. Support to tourism workers and tourism industry. The Ministry of Tourism and Culture, the Ministry of Tourism and Culture and Gambia Tourism Board. The Ministry of Tourism and Culture, in bracket the Gambia Tourism Board. From the approved supplementary appropriation, an amount of 100 million was allocated to the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, from which an amount of 89.9 million was allocated to the tourism sector through Gambia Tourism Board for onward distribution to the tourism industry. And the findings: difference between amount received and amount distributed, a difference of $7,821,105 was noted between the funds disbursed to GT Board for onwards payment to beneficiaries and the actual payment made to the beneficiary. No explanation was provided to the auditors to account for the difference. On budgeted payment, the total payment of $1,840,000 was made to various associations in the tourism industry, and some individuals were not included in the budget. Difference between cash withdrawal and total payments. There was a difference of $502,000 between an amount received to support individuals in the informal sector and actual amount disbursed to beneficiaries by the auditors, and no explanation was provided to account for the difference. Conclusion: based on the documentation and information obtained by the auditors, adequate and appropriate evidence was not presented by GT Board to substantiate the payment made by the tourism industry. And there the committee concluded that payment made to tourism industry did not fully comply with the laws and regulations that govern them. Some vulnerable business did not receive support to which they were entitled to, and the committee recommends payment officers should ensure that the monies allocated for specific purposes are only used for the intended purposes. GT Board must provide material evidence regarding $7,820,105 queried by the auditors, and that to support the tourism industry should not be made to beneficiaries who are not budgeted for, and payment officers should ensure that the monies allocated for specific purposes are only used for intended purposes. The outstanding balance, that is the $300,000 out of the $502,000, must be accounted for immediately. The relief package for the media houses, the Ministry of Information, Communication and Infrastructure also received a tune of $15 million for the media houses. And the committee's finding on that. On confirmed balances, confirmation of the funds disbursed to media houses so that there were unused balances amounting to $585,159.86 from the total amount disbursed. The auditors could not confirm if this balance was subsequently used or paid back to the account as bank statement to verify the balances were not provided, and that non-submission of financial and narrative reports by the guarantees. No financial and narrative reports were received from some guarantees contrary to provisions of the grant agreement. As such, the auditors could not ascertain where the funds received were used for intended purpose. Full payment of media houses should only be completed after the submission of financial and narrative report. And the committee concludes that based on the information and documentation obtained by the auditors, the committee could conclude that the management of COVID-19 funds allocated to the media houses has substantially complied with the laws and regulations that govern them, and recommend that failure of guarantee to keep and maintain proper and up-to-date records of any transaction carried out is a violation of grant agreement. The committee further recommends that the unused balance of $585,159 $585,159.86 must be accounted for by GNC and Gambia Press Union. Full payment to media houses will only be completed after the submission of financial and narrative report. Honorable Speaker, let's go to Chapter 2 of the report that has to do with the Auditor General's report on the 2019 accounts of the government of the Gambia. And then where the committee drives its mandate are mentioned here in the report, which I believe I had done so at the beginning of the report. So we move on to the key findings and observations. Budget management, environment and approval. A review of the Ministry's department and agencies files at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs by the auditor revealed that environment amount to 67,960,642.4 were made between and across budget entities. And failure to notify the budget entities of environment. The review also revealed that the auditors revealed that the environment totaling $2,469,441,457.38 were made between and across the budget entities, and that there was no evidence provided to the auditors to suggest that a formal notification was sent by the Ministry of Finance to the budget entities or entities before or after the environments were made. Failure to present information on budget and on budgetary process. This was an issue that was also highlighted by the auditors, and you can see the list in the report. And the next one was on presented cash activity reports on program-based budgeting, was an issue raised by the auditors. As well as environment above 75% threshold is also an issue that was raised by the auditors. A total of 404 environments were said to have been made without, above the threshold of the 75%. Recommendation. The committee recommends that the evidence of environment approved by the minister should be provided to the auditors and copied to FPAC for verification. In future, the dictates of the financial regulation should be adhered to, and that the committee recommends that the budget agencies and entities are notified whenever funds are wired from their boards in accordance with the dictates of the Public Finance Act 2014, that the MOFIA should ensure that environments are properly executed to avoid excess and unwarranted expenditures, and should provide documentary evidence for making environments without notification. The committee recommends that the Ministry of Finance should ensure that the dictates of the Constitution and financial regulation are adhered to, and that the request documentation should be provided to the auditors for inspection and verification. And that the committee recommends that the Ministry of Finance provides the cash activity report to auditors for inspection and verification, and the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs should work with the Accountant General's Department to ensure that all segments in the chart of accounts are populated in order to report on actual amounts spent on each program. The committee recommends that the management provides an explanation as to why environment were made over maximum threshold of 75%. On capital expenditure, the issues that were raised by the auditors as follows: failure to adhere to GBA conditional approval for rehabilitation work at State House. And then this contract was awarded at a tune of $17,488,155.63 for the construction of the new President's Office and rehabilitation works at State House. On that, the auditor noted that to clearly define or clarify the supervisory role of the work as this is not indicated in the submission, and that to remove the $950,000 contingency allocation from the contract, and thirdly, the subtotal of 1,750 on page 2 or 311 to be added to the grand total to make up the 17 million. It was further noted that despite the failure of the contract to make the amendments directed by GPA work went ahead, and the committee therefore recommend that the Office of the President should ensure that evidence is provided to confirm that the required amendments were made before the commencement of the work. If the amendments were not made before the work began, the Office of the President should explain their failure to comply. On inappropriate procurement process by Office of the President was also an issue raised surrounding the 17.4 million. Approval was sought for the use of single source well after the rehabilitation work was completed, which is a gross violation of the GPA regulation. And that the payment voucher revealed, the payment voucher that is indicated revealed that office equipment to the tune of 50 million was paid to Fatima Trading, for which no receipt, as well as signature of the receipt, was provided.
50,000, not 50 million.
5 point.
Honorable members,
no,
you
that is the
intervene.
portion I skipped.
Honorable members,
I skipped
please
that one.
always intervene by quoting
Now,
standing orders.
the goods bought from Fatima Training amounted to 5.6 million. The goods bought from Fatima Trading amounting to 5.6 million were delivered to the Office of the President before requesting for single source approval from GPA. And this one has to do with the receipt book relating to the office equipment at the tune of 50 million. That was also paid to Fatima Trading. Recommendation.
Observation.
50,000 rather.
50,000, thank you. Thank you.
50,000. Recommendation. The Office of the President and the Ministry of Works should provide explanation for the above abnormalities. And then also Office of the President should follow such process for all procurements to ensure that public funds are judiciously spent for their intended purpose. Failure to adhere to contract agreement was an issue that was also highlighted by the auditors, and then the table below has outlined those areas that are affected. However, the auditors noted that the payment voucher, as mentioned earlier on, so that the payment voucher indicated herein, so that the Gaio Enterprise was paid the full amount of 17.4 million, as opposed to payment in stages. In addition, copies of the completion certificate for each stage were not provided to the audit team. And on that, the committee recommends that the Secretary General of the Office of the President should provide explanations for the above anomalies, and then should follow the procurement regulation to ensure that public funds are judiciously spent. Failure to gazette the award of Banjul Drainage Roads and Sewage Project was an issue that was also highlighted by the auditors, that the project that was awarded to Guy in May 2019 amounting to 35.7 million should be gazetted before the conclusion of the ingredient procurement and construction contract. And the committee on that recommends the Ministry of Trade, the Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure should provide the above documentation for audit verification, and furthermore the ministry should follow proper documentation procedures for transparency and accountability. The flaws in Banjul Drainage Road and Sewage Project was an issue that was also highlighted by the auditors, that the major omissions such as detailed study and design work, schedule, and the bill of quantity in the Lot 1 prepared by the Ministry of Trade and Infrastructure were identified, and there was no evidence of due diligence conducted to confirm that the contractor has available financial resources, including performance security to execute the project. On that, the committee recommends that the Office of the President and the Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure should provide an explanation for accepting this form of contract. Similarly, evidence that Guy Enterprise is the most suitable and qualified contractor to carry out this project, including any due diligence performed before the contract was awarded to the said contract, should be provided to the auditors. On delay in submission of technical and design specification was an issue also that was raised, and then the committee recommended that the dictates of the contract should always be followed to ensure that the project implementation is in line with the requirements of the government of the Gambia. The non-registered supplies is also an issue raised, and the committee recommends that an explanation and justification for awarding contracts to non-registered GPS suppliers should be provided, and in future, sanctions should be imposed on all accounting officers that award contracts to non-registered GPS suppliers. On unjustified single source procurement was an issue also that was raised, and committee recommends that all future procurement should follow the due process. On presented payment vouchers, the various payment vouchers are listed below, and then the committee recommends that Accountant General should provide all the unpresented payment vouchers and supporting documents to the auditors for review without delay. In future, all payment vouchers and supporting documents should be provided when requested. On revenue, that has to do with GRA revenue. Management and control of the GRA receipt books is an issue that is also highlighted, and the table provides the affected areas and recommendation. The committee recommended that the Commissioner General of GRA must immediately adhere to the provisions of Public Finance Act 2014 and the financial regulation to ensure sound internal controls, and that the Accountant General should engage the Commissioner General of GRA so that this anomaly is regularized as a matter of urgency. On issuing of receipt without recipient signature is an issue also noted by the auditors, and the committee recommends that GRA should ensure that the revenue collectors who are supplied GTR books sign against their names as evidence that they have received them. On failure to record GTR books received from GPPC was also highlighted, and then the committee recommends that the Commissioner General of GRA should ensure that the receipt books printed and supplied by GPPC is maintained for its reconciliation and control, and that all receipt books should be controlled and supplied by the Accountant General Department in compliance with the Public Finance Act 2014. On non-GRA revenue, the GRA scanning proceeds. On no bank of daily collection, that was issue highlighted by the auditors, and on that the committee recommends that GRA should make daily backups without delay. And on overstatement of scanning fees and revenue, the table provided, and the committee recommends that management should ensure that the scanning revenue balance recognized in the financial statement is adjusted accordingly. On failure to perform reconciliation was also an issue, and the committee recommends that management should ensure that timely bank reconciliations are performed, reviewed, and that the errors and omissions detected are investigated and adjusted accordingly. On absence of skill and knowledge or knowledge transfer between the NIC DC Scan Gambia Limited is an issue noted by the auditors, and the committee recommends that GRA should arrange to have its staff trained to operate the system before the expiry of the contract. On non-tax revenue, as for the ministries and departments, for Geology Department, failure to maintain receipt books, receipt book registered is an audit query, and the committee recommends that the Department of Geology should ensure that the copies of the request made to the Accountant General are properly filed, and that the department should also maintain a register to record their in GTR books received from the Accountant General's Department and issues made to collectors, and that the dictates of the financial regulations should always be adhered to. Judiciary, unaccounted GTR book is an issue also queried by the auditors under Judiciary, and recommendation, the committee recommends that the Accountant General should investigate the missing receipt book and provide details of their investigation to audit team for confirmation. The committee recommends that the stringent controls are instituted over the management and custody of the receipt books, and that the dictates of the financial regulations are always adhered to. On failure to provide information on Journey Commission proceeds, which is also an audit query, a tune of 22.3 million, the committee recommends that the Accountant General should liaise with the Ministry of Justice to ensure that the relevant documents requested are provided immediately, and that the dictates of the Constitution and financial regulation should always be adhered to. Cash and cash equivalent, on that, differences between Note 15, that is the cash and cash equivalent, and the ledger, and the general ledger rather, the table provided the details, was also an edit query, and differences in translating foreign health account, the table also highlighted the issue, and the overdue on reconciled items was also an issue queried by the auditors, and inaccurate balances used to perform bank reconciliation, the table highlighted, and then the stale checks as well as unaccounted cancelled checks were issues that were queried by the auditors. And the committee recommends that the committee demands that the Accountant General investigate and correct this difference and furnish evidence to the auditors for review by December 2023. And that the committee demands that the Accountant General ensures that the difference is adjusted accordingly, and evidence of adjustment should be provided to the auditors for review by December 2023. The committee demands that the above omissions are adjusted and details provided to the auditors for verification, and furthermore, unreconciled items should be investigated and cleared from the various accounts. That the Accountant General should ensure that all bank reconciliations performed are reviewed and signed up. The reviewing officer should also ensure that the errors and omissions detected are investigated and adjusted accordingly, and that the Accountant General corrects all inaccuracies identified above and provide evidence to auditors for review. The Accountant General should establish a proper control system to monitor the reconciliations done on all accounts by December 2023. That all TMA stale payments should be transferred to the deposit account, and that all BTL payments in respect of the checks are cancelled. Unpresented checks should be transferred to the Consolidated Revenue Fund. 5 years as per IFMI's accounting procedures manual from the date it was transferred to the special deposit account. On financial instruments, on failure to disclose financial instrument was an issue that the auditors query. Misclassification of other equity participation, the table as shown below, was an issue also queried by the auditors, and the committee recommends that adequate and appropriate disclosures related to other equity participation should be made, and Accountant General should liaise with the Ministry of Finance to ensure that timely provision of documentation to facilitate the disclosure of share acquired by government. The committee further recommends that the Ministry of Finance provide the annual reports of all institutions where government of the Gambia holds equity participation, and that the Accountant General should give explanation of the disclosures and provide necessary documentary evidence to the auditors for inspection, and should ensure that the disclosure notes are accurate and complete. On grants, the auditors noted failure to provide records of grant disbursement, which amount to $92,323,463.51, the table shown below, and the committee has made the following recommendation. The conciliation should be performed in respect of grant disbursed to individual projects on a regular basis, and the dictates of the Public Finance Act should always be adhered to, and that notice with grave concern and recommend that the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs provide records of above grant disbursement. On outstanding commitments, differences in balance of outstanding commitment was also queried by the auditors, which amount to $26,000. And the table is detailed below. Unclear balances in the statement of outstanding commitments was also queried by the auditors, a tune of $351,693,000, $351,693,000. Table below. Recommendation: Accountant General should provide the breakdown of the amount of outstanding commitment from the Ministry, and should ensure that any difference is corrected by December 2023, and that Accountant General should liaise with the Ministry of Finance to engage accounting officers to ensure that funds commitments are not made when budgetary funds are insufficient, and should ensure that the outstanding commitments are cleared on a monthly basis. The tax receivables, on differences between tax revenue received in cash book report and the general ledger, table shown below, and B, difference between tax revenue in cash book and amount disclosed in financial statement, the table also shown below, and the committee recommends that the Accountant General should carry out a comprehensive reconciliation exercise, and that the Accountant General should investigate the causes of the differences in tax reconciliation amount disclosed in the financial statement, and details of findings should be forwarded to the auditors for confirmation, and that the above findings with grave concern and recommends that the Accountant General resolves the above stated observation by December 2023. Arrears and guarantees under the deposits, the auditors query on misclassifications of revenue, as well as the third-party amounts with balances at the year-end and dormant accounts not disclosed, the tables below. Misclassification of revenue accounts as a third-party account also queried, and the table is detailed below. Recommendations: the Accountant General should make effort to reverse the accounting treatment and transfer the funds to appropriate revenue bank account. The Accountant General should also ensure that the balances in these accounts are transferred to their respective beneficiary accounts at the year end, that the dormant accounts should be closed and the balances transferred to the consolidated fund, and the details furnished to the auditors for verification, that the dictates of the financial regulations should always be adhered to, and the Accountant General should ensure that the correction is made as soon as possible, and details furnished to auditors for verification. The committee noted the observation of the Auditor General with grave concern, and further recommends that the Accountant General urgently reverse the accounting treatment, and transfer the funds to the appropriate revenue bank account. On timber process, the auditor's failure to provide the number of containers exported by against, that is in December 2019, and also unaccounted government revenue was also queried by the auditors at tune of 8.6 million US dollar, and then the detail as shown below in the table. Unauthorized use of revenue from sale of timber was also an issue queried by the auditors. The detail provided on the table below, an unsupported payment of timber proceeds to the government of Senegal. The process also is queried by the auditors. Failure to adhere to contract agreement was also queried by the auditors, and the table is indicated below. There, the committee make the following recommendations. The Ministry of Environment should make follow-up with agents to provide information on number of containers exported from the inception of this agreement to date, as well as corresponding revenue collected for the same period. And B, action should be taken by the management to investigate the accountability of the revenue generated through the exportation of timber, and details should be furnished to the auditors for verification. And that the Ministry of Environment should provide evidence of approval of National Assembly to the FPAC, or appropriate sanctions will be applied to the officials involved. We request that any document regarding agreement between the two governments be presented to FPAC for verification. We demand an explanation with supporting evidence for the procurement of the outstanding 2 vehicles and their place of allocation. We also request explanation from the management for the procurement of 15 motor vehicle brands that are different from specifications stated in the contract. And lastly, the committee further recommends that Ministry of Finance must provide delivery notes, the chassis numbers and the locations of the 2 outstanding vehicles procured through UNOPS within 7 days, and on public debt. Non-disclosure of penalty and commitment fees was an issue raised by the auditors, and then the committee recommends that the Accountant General should ensure that these charges are disclosed in financial statement, and that the committee noted with grave concern the observation of the National Audit Office, and further recommends that the Ministry of Finance should be held liable for any such lapses in future. On loss of public money, losses not fully recovered or written off is an issue that is also queried by the auditors. And the table has detailed it below. Recommendation: the Accountant General should make every effort to ensure that amounts are recovered and should provide service update on these suspected fraud cases. The committee noted with great concern the findings of the Auditor General and further demanded that the Accountant General provides an urgent update on these suspected fraud cases, given the names of the persons involved, their offices, and the periods concerned by October 2023. On lending, failure to recover on lending loans to state-owned enterprises is an issue also queried by the auditors, and the details are tabled below. And the committee therefore recommend for the Ministry of Finance to ensure that there are adequate policies and procedures regarding repayment of loans on lend to state-owned enterprises, and the committee further recommends that the Ministry of Finance urgently ensure that these loans are fully recovered by putting in place a payment plan which should be shared with FPAC. If you miss, no steering committee minutes was also queried by the auditors, and the committee recommends that Accountant General should provide updates on FPAC on the revitalization of the IT steering committee. Change management system is an issue that is also queried, and the committee recommends that the Accountant General should ensure that a change management system is put in place, and that the committee further recommends that the Accountant General should ensure that every change in the system is properly documented. On no service level agreement for internet and generator service is an issue that was also queried, and the committee recommends that the Accountant General should ensure that clear terms and measurable guidelines are identified and agreed with the service provider, and the logbook to server room is an issue also that was also queried. Some members of the technical team was also queried, and the committee thereafter recommends that the Accountant General should ensure that the staff entering into the server room are always recorded for each access. On main UPS in server room does not synchronize is an issue that was also taken up by the auditors, and the committee recommended that the Accountant General should ensure that the two GANT UPS are synchronized to avoid any delay in power transmission and manual switching over to the automate. The committee further recommends that the Accountant General provides FPAC with updates on synchronization of the UPS. The system users have more rights than needed is an issue that was also queried, and the committee recommends that Accountant General should ensure that users are assigned only to system rights that need to perform their roles and responsibilities. On irregular backup and improper storage on the Meridian was an issue taken up by the auditors, and there the committee recommends that the permanent secretary should ensure that the Meridian database is frequently backed up and properly stored on external hard drives that kept in a safe location, and that the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Finance should provide evidence to FPAC that these backups have been taken on periodic basis. On unpresented personal files is an issue that was also queried, and the committee recommends that management should take all the necessary steps to produce all the outstanding personal files immediately. On partially updated personal files, the committee recommends that the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education should ensure that steps are taken to update the affected personal files immediately. On poor record management, the committee recommends that the management should ensure that the comprehensive records and management of the personal files is put in place, and this affects ministries of education, tourism, health, and information. Failure to maintain personal files for staff on contract is an issue that is also queried and affects the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education. The table is provided below. Recommendation, the committee recommends that the management should ensure that all the necessary steps are taken to maintain personal files for the staff affected immediately without delay. On staff receiving salary after end of contract was an issue that was also queried, and this also affects the Ministry of Education, and the committee recommends that the Permanent Secretary of the said ministry should recover the money involved within 30 days. Otherwise, the PS will be held liable. Classes of expected output not in budget estimate was an issue that was also queried, and the committee recommends that the Ministry of Finance should adhere to the dictates of the Public Finance Act and ensure that outputs are identified for each budget entity, and that the Ministry of Finance should also update the FPAC on their progress regarding program-based budgeting. Honorable Speaker, permit me to take you to the third chapter of the report, and that has to do with the report on the public institutions and agencies. Firstly, Central Bank of the Gambia. The findings of the committee during the interface with the board and management of FIU, the committee observed that, I think that should be Central Bank. Yeah, Central Bank instead of FIU. There are private sector shareholders on GAMSWITCH where Central Bank has a significant shareholding, and that FPAC was informed that plans are afoot to launch Central Bank digital currency, through which tax payments could be done electronically to avoid leakages, and that the capital markets could not start because government sectors were not ready, and Central Bank will pilot it before handing it over to the private sector. And the automation of Central Bank's payroll and fixed asset register was contracted out, and the Internal Audit Directorate had no director, the work plan, or software. The CCTV and the UPS at the Vault Room are on the verge of being upgraded to include the UPS outlet that will avert power failure. And Central Bank is in the process of disposing of Mega Bank. After selling Mega Bank for about $900 million, the funds will be given to the Ministry of Finance. And that Future Lake building has been acquired by Central Bank, and the area around it is earmarked to be used as the financial center. The centralization of Central Bank is in full swing at mile 7, Jarasoma, Mansakongo, Base, as business recovery strategy. The committee makes the following recommendations. 1, Central Bank should submit its strategic plan and lots of ICT testing on business continuity, and Central Bank and the Ministry of Finance will initiate creation and insurance commission for better regulation of the insurance industry. That Central Bank's business continuity plan should be in place to provide direction in the case of any possible eventualities. Central Bank's BCP should be documented and tested to ascertain that the plans in place are appropriate for Central Bank's continued operation when disaster hits. The BCP test should be conducted to be at least twice every year and locked in variable manner, that the ICT unit of the Central Bank should determine its own interface policies and cater for future adjustments such as the cybersecurity guidelines, and Central Bank should determine its own security policies in very clear terms for both internal and external connectivity, and periodically update them when necessary. And that Central Bank should also do periodic network generation testing. Central Bank should consistently look at system security logs to correct issues accordingly. National Audit Office should look at the audited accounts of the GAMSWITCH, since government has a major stake in it. Auditors should capture prior year matters in their report to help FPAC track the implementation of its recommendations. On National Audit Office, the findings during the interface with the board and management of National Audit Office, also that one also, the committee observed that National Audit Office reported that the staff constraint resulted in the backlog of their reviews, that the government to Accountant General Department has chosen cash-based accounting for National Audit Office. National Audit Office intention of migrating to an accruals basis after 5 years of cash-based accounting since 2007 rather has not materialized. National Audit Office does not have a written fuel policy. Drivers are escorted by officials of the Accounts Department for fueling. National Audit Office fuel policy is expected to be ready by end of July 2022. That National Audit Office asset register for IT equipment was said to have been kept separately. The updated fixed asset register was provided to FPAC for verification, and that the Wellness Center at the National Office requires staff to be deducted monthly. Manual entry of the payroll data at the Accountant General caused the differences in National Audit books. Two parallel systems, EPICO 10 and then the NAS-DNA existed with no interface. The accruals for the public sector would require milestone resources and training for effective implementation, and that the GBA compliance review for the years 2017 to 2021 were scheduled to take place in August 2022. On that, the committee recommends that the Chief of Staff and Inspector General of Police should ensure that the commandeering of National Audit Office vehicles should stop immediately. National Audit Office should trace and provide all query documents to the external audits for verification by October 2023. Auditor General should notify FPAC about all cases of surcharge and those reported to the Inspector General of Police for possible prosecution. On Financial Intelligence Unit, the Finance Subject Committee, the legal framework of FIU does not guarantee its autonomy. There is no loans policy for senior management. FIU's backup files are stored on flash drive within their premises, thereby exposing the institution to risks of data loss. That the GBA's 2020 compliance report for FIU was not finalized at the time of the FIU's appearance. And there the committee recommends that FIU must put in place proper backup policies, which need to be documented in their BCP, that the storing data on flash drives as backup must stop immediately, and proper backup solutions must be implemented to ensure that their data is stored in a safe and reliable medium. These solutions must be implemented in 2023. That FIU must consult the Ministry of Justice regarding the draft amendments to its act to ensure that they are properly aligned with the other laws of the land, and that the Gambia must implement the global anti-money laundering or counter-terrorism financial recommendations. Otherwise, the country will be blacklisted with the risk of investors not coming to the country. On National Council for Civic Education, the findings of the committee. Civic education is expected to be a compulsory subject at all levels of the education system, and the first examination on it is expected to be in 2024. A retreat organized by the NCCE revealed staffing gaps. This led to the development of scheme of services as well as finance and administration policy. Award of contract for review, the NCCE Act was not awarded using competitive bidding. That non-numbering of payment vouchers remains unresolved, and that the following prior year audit findings remain pending. They are listed below. Recommendation of the committee. NCCE must have competent staff to take charge of its accounts, and this should be done by October 2023. NCCE must collaborate with the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education as part of its school engagement program, and outstanding prior year matters need to be resolved as a matter of urgency. Management Development Institute, the committee findings. The fixed asset register of MDI was maintained by procurement unit until end of 2021. The internal audit recommended transferring it to accounts department, and MDI's challenges with external auditors have to do with negotiation of fees and increase of the period from 3 to 5 years. That the lack of efficient receivables recovery mechanism resulting to an outstanding amount of 15.1 million as of 13 December 2020. Double payment of allowances regarding telephone and fuel when beneficiaries already have official vehicles and post-paid telephone line. Under the committee recommends that the accounts department should have the responsibility to prepare the accounts of the institution as part of their work, and that the payment on review for the preparation of their accounts must be immediately stopped. Appropriate steps must be taken by MDI to get right staff in accounts department by end of December 2023. That MDI must implement a student portal where students can access their information on fee payment, grades, etc. by end of December 2023, and that locally available options of student portal should be explored to ensure value for money. NDI service scheme needs to be thoroughly reviewed to eliminate duplication and remedy the gaps, and MDI fuel should be properly managed and controlled. Lapses should be addressed to reduce misappropriation. That evidence of step settlement of outstanding tuition fees by ministries must be presented to EFA to confirm resolution of the issue by end of October 2023. And finally, NBI to provide a copy of its revised scheme of service to EFA for review. Honorable Speaker, on Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, the committee's findings since 2019, all telecom operators were reportedly issued licenses for international voice gateway. Oil companies continue construction of fuel stations even after amendment of the regulations, and Department of Fiscal Planning issues permits for construction of fuel stations even when PURA is not satisfied with the application, and that there is proliferation of fuel stations in residential areas. On that, the committee recommends the PURA Act and Information and Communication Act 2009 must be updated to reflect the current realities of the sector. PURA and the aligned ministries should come with the amendments to any act of parliament for the proliferation of the fuel stations in residential areas, and that PURA is to provide a breakdown of the 13.3 million penalty charges, that the laws need to be amended and enforced to control the proliferation of fuel stations in residential areas, and part of the licensing fees need to be given to PURA instead of paying everything to central government. That appropriate fines must be levied on Jar Oil for their willful non-compliance of the regulation and taken to court if need be. Department of Fiscal Planning should not issue permits for construction of fuel stations without clearance from PURA. On National Roads Authority, the findings of the committee, the debt of 19.7 million being advance paid by NRA to Corporate Limited in 2013 were written up in 2020 without a proper provisioning policy, and that NRA does not have the legal documentation to claim ownership of their landed properties. NRA uses the Public Finance Act 2014 and Financial Regulation of 2016, which are in accordance with the government's cash basis accounting policy, whereas NRA prepares its accounts based on the accrual accounting policy, and the NRA staff personnel files are not up to date as differences were identified between the net salaries of staff compared to their contract letters in the files. That NRA does not carry out staff appraisals as required by the staff service rules And finally, the salary advances are paid to staff from petty cash. On that, the committee recommends that provisioning policy approved by the board and in line with the government policy should be put in place, and that effort should be made to obtain title deeds of all their landed properties. The valuable service of all landed properties should be carried out by an independent valuer and then amounts recorded in the financial statements. And a financial manual containing accounting policies reflecting the financial reporting requirements should be deployed, should be developed and put in place, that the staff personal files should be up to date, and HR should carry out reviews of cash file to ensure that it is up to date. The practice of using petty cash for salary advance should be discontinued immediately. National Environment Agency, the committee made the following findings. 2020 audit of National Environment Agency was completed, but some issues remain unresolved because the exit meeting was never held, and that the National Environment Agency did not respond to the issues raised by the GBA in the 2019-2020 compliance report. And the committee recommends that the management of NEA should respond to GBA queries on all issues before end of December 2023 and copy to FPAC accordingly, and that all audit queries must be reported to NEA, and auditors must show all unresolved queries in the subsequent years, and that NEA Act 1994 needs to be reviewed to address the composition of the National Environment Management Council, among others. On Drug Law Enforcement Agency Gambia, the committee made the following findings: that the policies and guidelines were not in place for expenses relating to payment of informants, and that the DLAG has not been remitting withholding tax as dictated by law, resulting to cumulative values of $946,242.7 and $1,648,501.57 for 2017 and 2018 respectively. The committee recommends that the management should ensure that the policies and guidelines are in place for expenses relating to payments of informants, and by December 2023, that the management should ensure that withholding tax is deducted from the suppliers and remitted to GRA as dictated by the law. Public Service Commission, the committee made the following findings. PSC occasionally conducts disciplinary investigation at government institutions. PSC's recruitment process from application to interview is now fully digital. PSC advises the President and Secretary General on all public service matters. PSC regulation, code of conduct, and general orders were revised in 2023, and induction program of PSC are only conducted for cadet officers. The committee recommends that there is needed to review the remuneration package of the PSC, and that the chairman of PSC should appear in person whenever his institution is summoned to appear before FPA, and that PSC needs to be relocated to a more spacious area for better performance because they currently share office space with PMO, the National Youth Service Scheme. The findings of the committee: the board chairperson of National Youth Service has not been available to steer the affairs of the institution, and no one has been delegated to oversee the position. That the Ministry of Youth and Sports is said to be aware of the current situation at NYSS, and that the Director General of NYSS has been on administrative leave for a long time, and that usurpation of role of the accountant by the Executive Director was reported to the board chairperson, but the matter was not addressed. The accounts of NYSS have not been audited, and the financial report of 2019 and 2020 are at the drafting stage, and that a panel consisting of representatives from the different ministries was reportedly set up to investigate the executive director and accounts of the NYSS. That the principal accountant of the NYSS had been on leave from 17 June to 30th August 2021, following his involvement in an accident. He has been appointed since 2011, and the position of the Director of Financial Administration was also advertised, and that the acting Executive Director of NYSS began overseeing NYSS on 21st July 2022, but no board meeting took place since then. On that, the committee recommends that and demands that the Ministry of Youth and Sport regularize the situation at National Youth Service Scheme by November 2023, failing which the budget for the institution would not be considered. To the chairperson or vice chairperson of the board of NYSS must attend in person whenever they are scheduled to appear before FPAC, and that FPAC should inform the Ministry of Youth and Sports about its engagement with NYSS, but the management of NYSS shall inform its board of directors. The board of NYSS must communicate to the executive director forthwith to allow the accountant to do his work while he concentrates on his role as ED. The key senior position of NYSS must be immediately filed in line with laws so that they can assume their roles in the institution. National Enterprise Development Initiative. The committee's finding